Welcome to Khanversations. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how even the Democrats are undermining America's democracy in order to ensure that Joe Biden defeats Donald Trump, or at least does not have to face Donald Trump at the polls in November 2024. But before I do that, please subscribe to Khanversations, like the video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your social network. Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about the declining nature of America's democracy. And we take so much pride in calling ourselves the oldest democracy. We take so much pride in democracy promotion. We distinguish between us and other countries as we are democratic and they are authoritarian. We pass judgments on civilizations and other countries because they are not democratic or do not appreciate the democratic values. So democracy has been the core of American identity, and the pride in America being a democracy, the oldest functioning democracy, is considered as one of the highest virtues of this country. But unfortunately, since 2006, American democracy has been on a steady decline. The latest development seems to be this judgment by the Colorado Supreme Court, which used the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution to rule that Donald Trump is not eligible to be president of the country because he supported an insurrection. And as a result of that, invoking Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution, the Colorado Supreme Court, in a divided judgment, 4-3, basically ruled that he should not be on the ballot. And so he will not be on the primary ballot of the Republican primary, which is going to come on soon. Republicans may get around that by changing it from primary to caucuses, but it is an interesting judgment that it seems that the Democrats seem to be so frightened of Donald Trump that they themselves are undermining the US Constitution and US democracy to use basically what some people call as lawfare, using the law as an instrument of war against each other. Similar attempts apparently have been made in 9 different places. In Michigan, in Colorado, previous courts, in Minnesota, in Washington, in Arizona, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Florida. And in all of these cases, the courts voted in basically saying that he is not excluded. The 14th Amendment, if you look at the 14th Amendment and its Section 3, you will see that basically it says that once you have sworn to defend the Constitution, and in that state you have participated in an insurrection, directly, indirectly, or provided some kind of comfort to those who were part of the insurrection, then you are ineligible to hold office again. So that's the logic that the Colorado Supreme Court has. But the point is that the Colorado Supreme Court is concluding that what happened on January 6th was an insurrection, and Donald Trump was, shall we say, responsible for it or part of it. I don't think those two things have been proven in court unless lawyers consider that they have been proven in the Colorado Supreme Court hearing. But whatever it is, one of the tactics of the Democrats has been to make sure that Donald Trump is not on the ballot because they're so afraid that he is going to beat Joe Biden in 2024. I understand the reasons. I've been a lifelong Democrat. I did vote for Biden in 2020. I understand why Democrats do not want to see Donald Trump back in the White House, because they think he has a totalitarian streak, they do not agree with his America First policies, etc. And he's also seen as xenophobic, racist, anti-immigrant, etc. But if the difference between Biden and Donald Trump is democracy, one is pro-democracy and the other is against democracy, then Democrats using all these kind of legal stuff in which they are undermining the US Constitution and the spirit of the US democracy in order to protect Biden from Donald Trump, I think is counterproductive. And let's really ask ourselves this question as to is Biden worth protecting, and is it okay to destroy America's democracy further in order to preserve Joe Biden as a president and give him a second term? But before that, let me show you briefly what the democracy index shows about the US democracy. As I told you in the beginning, the US democracy has been on a steady decline. So if you look at the US from 2006 till now, you see that it's like a precipice if you look at the chart. And if you look at the numbers also, there is no redeeming. I mean, it was steady during the first term of Obama, and then it dropped significantly during the second term of Obama, and then it dropped a little during Donald Trump's, and then subsequently it continued to drop. Uh, uh, we have basically 1 year's worth of data for Joe Biden, but even in that 1 year, he has not improved on America's democracy. It remains at the low, flawed democracy level as it is. As you can see from this chart, which shows how the US went from 2013 from a rating of 8.11 when it was a weak but full democracy to now a flawed democracy at 7.85. So basically the turning point was 2016, which means that the year 2015 was very bad. That's when America ceased to remain a full democracy. But nevertheless, coming to this question, that Democrats are so determined to preserve Joe Biden as president that they're willing to undermine America's democracy. Is he worth preserving? Look at the latest poll conducted by Monmouth University in New Jersey. This is the findings of this poll. This is basically Biden's approval rating, and you will be stunned at how badly he is seen as performing as president. So when the respondents were asked, do you approve or disapprove of the job Joe Biden is doing as president? 34% say they approve of what he's doing, and 61% disapprove. It's really close to 2:1 ratio. 60% of Americans, 61% of Americans disapprove. And if you look at the steep decline from September to now, so the biggest difference from September to December, even though the numbers on inflation and employment and economy have been doing much better from September to October, that clearly is an indication that Joe Biden's handling of the Middle East crisis is perhaps one of the reasons why there has been a 6-percentage point drop in his approval ratings from September 2023 to December 2023. So the first shocker you get is that the Democrats want to destroy America's democracy to keep this man in power, and 61% of Americans think that they disapprove of his work, as simple as that. And if you look at on various policy issues such as infrastructure, only 42% approve of it. On jobs, only 42%. On climate change, only 38%. Inflation, only 28%. Immigration, only 26%. And the disapproval is all above 50. And on these two critical issues of inflation and immigration, inflation is about how people feel, whether they're satisfied with their life or not. And immigration is another thing. This is about national integration. This is a big issue about the integrity and sanctity of US borders. It also is about culture. It's also about national identity. So they fear that Joe Biden is not doing a good job on any of these criteria. On this question, regardless of whether you disagree or agree with President Biden, has he been giving enough attention to the issues that are most important to your family? This is a very interesting question. The question basically is asking Americans if they think Biden is paying attention to what they are concerned with, or he has his own personal agenda, which is different from what is good for America. And here again, 65% Americans feel that he should be giving more attention to what Americans want. And I think this is where Trump begins to win, because that is what America first probably is, paying attention to what Americans want. Biden seems to be thinking that he's the president of Israel or president of Ukraine. He's more interested in sending billions of dollars to Israel and to Ukraine, to such an extent that he's willing to make a deal with the Republicans on immigration, where he's going to compromise the ideology and the politics of his party, and also compromise the basis. He's going to betray the voters in 2020 who voted for him because they believed in the democratic values, values of the Democratic Party. Now he's going to betray all of that, agree with the Republicans, so he can send $65 billion to Ukraine. So he's more concerned about what happens to Europe and Ukraine than he is about what happens to America. No wonder that the Americans feel like this, that 65% of the Americans feel, whether they agree with him or disagree, that he's not paying enough attention to what they are concerned about. When asked if the country is going in the right direction or the wrong direction, 69% of Americans think that the country is going in the wrong direction, and only 20% of Americans think that the country is going in the right direction. So in question after question, you see that people are unhappy with Biden. His approval ratings are below. And of course, there are some diehard supporters of Democrat policies of Joe Biden who are going to come out and say, oh, all these Americans are stupid. All of them are ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about. Only I and Biden understand fully that Biden's policies are so great. But remember, this is a democracy. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what a vast majority of Americans think, or at least enough of Americans think that can help you win your seat back. Now, on this question about how Americans feel about their financial situation, when asked, would you say you're struggling to remain where you are financially, or are you basically stable in your current financial situation, or is your financial situation improving? So if you look at it, 44% of Americans say they are struggling, 43% say they are stable, and only 12% of Americans feel that they are improving. And if you go back to 2017, you will find that in the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, Americans felt that their financial situation was improving. So they went from 20 to 25%, and then COVID hits, and then you can see 11%, 11% during COVID and post-COVID. So either we can blame this on COVID and say that the pandemic is still having an impact on how people feel about their financial situation, or we have to blame Bidenomics, because Biden has been touting this whole concept of Bidenomics and saying it's doing great things, but Americans don't seem to feel that it's doing great things for them. So I'm going to leave you with this. It is quite apparent that in order to win elections, American politicians these days are willing to do anything and everything, even if it means undermining the spirit of America's Constitution, undermining America's democratic ideals, and everything. So this whole bipartisan divide is not just tearing the country apart, but is also tearing America's democracy apart. If Trump is not on the ballot, my ideal situation is that Trump is on the ballot and a young Democrat with progressive values and a vision for America beats him fair and square in the elections. But now we have an old man. He was born in the year when India was experiencing the Quit India movement in 1942. So he is about 5 years older than India. He's running for office, and you have seen the data on what Americans think about his ideas and his policies. He seems to be more concerned about Europe, Ukraine, and Israel than he is about America's own borders or America's own infrastructure or America's economy or the views of American citizens, especially the progressive segment of his own political party. So it appears that in order to save Biden so that he can save Ukraine, the Democrats are going to try and do whatever they can to defeat Donald Trump in the coming election in 2024. I hope you found this discussion interesting, and if so, please subscribe to Khanversations, like the video, press the bell icon, and share the video with your friends and your social network.